This is Tony at Cover Magazine. I'm speaking to Graham Harvey, the CEO of Cardinal. Graham, thank you very much for chatting to me today.
Absolute pleasure, Tony. Nice to connect with you once again.
Thank you. Yes, we fully immersed into the year and so on. And as per usual, in the current environment, everybody is talking about technology. Over the last 2 years, the buzzword amongst the many in the technology world has been artificial intelligence, AI, etc. And everybody is playing around with it. But in the meantime, most probably behind the scenes, much bigger things are happening than the tools that we are using every day that's got a little bit of AI based in. So maybe you can, from a technology perspective, just give us your sort of thought on the environment and the variety of buzzwords going around that maybe detract from the real strategy with technology.
Yes, sure, Tony. I think certainly from a technologist and an insurance technologist perspective, we are having increasing insights into the space, and there's a lot of people, let's say, tinkering around with AI, and equally, the term can be quite loosely used, but certainly in the area of AI-driven processes and automation, in that bigger strategy of where we see in the insurance industry going, which is digital transformation. Every organization, not even a question, it's no longer optional. It's the foundation for any modern insurance operation that digital transformation is the forefront of everything they're doing. And certainly we are seeing more and more applications of AI-driven automation, especially in the underwriting and the claims processes. In our one business Codeplex, which is very strong in the claims space, we're seeing a lot of wonderful additions through AI. We're starting to tinker with the fraud aspect now as well, drawing on underlying big sets of data. So fraud and mainly automation is where we see AI playing a big role. However, with that whole digital transformation and AI comes a whole new set of secondary considerations, I would say. With digital transformation comes another massive challenge with cybersecurity and data privacy, whether it be regulatory, like POPIA and GDPR, for example, but obviously just general security. You hear the horror stories of people's information being leaked and the repercussions of that to an insurance organization, obviously massive. So multi-factor authentications and encryptions and security and cloud and storage and where you're hosting, how you're hosting, scalable environments to manage all of this. These are all secondary things that happen when somebody just loosely wants to start using AI and digitally transforming an organization. And then that also has knock-on effects right down to the workforce challenge, reskilling employees around AI, having the leadership also being aware on how to drive these digital transformations is quite a skill. Yeah, specialist training needed inside an insurance organization around this whole new way of doing things, and possibly highlighting some skills within the business that are becoming legacy. The ongoing argument between that human element and the secret sauce that brings versus AI, and which ultimately is fed by humans. A lot of its learning is fed by human and historic data anyways. Yeah, I do think that there are a lot of challenges that come into this space, and a real shift in an organization, as long as they can fully adopt it and really address these other secondary factors that also must be considered. But for me, this AI is something that cannot be ignored. And neither can the digital transformation, which is where we see this whole big focus in an insurance organization for this year, certainly, and for the future.
And then, Graham, when you think of advising clients in terms of their digital transformation, the way that, if I listen to what you've said now, at the end of the day, it's still about the fundamentals of what needs to be done. In other words, it's fraud prevention. And it's not about AI, it's about fraud prevention. And then you look at how do we devise the system to best help you with fraud prevention. And if AI is a tool that comes in there, then you bring AI in. So do you start with what is the current function performed by your system? And then you say, does AI lend a hand? Or do you look at transforming the system to bring AI in?
I think it's a very pertinent question. One of the other secondary considerations is, how does your system, your existing back office administration system, those are going nowhere. You still have to have those. And how open is that system to adopting and ingesting the outputs of the AI capability? I certainly would see, I'd revert back to the digital transformation strategy, which is collapse every process within the business and rebuild it, knowing what technologies you have at your disposal to business process re-engineer how you do things, bearing in mind that technology. But it can't purely be AI based. You're ultimately, at the end of the day, your back end administration system, the rock of your business, which is regulatory reporting through to financials and reinsurance and policies and claims processing, that's got to be able to ingest the outputs of the AI. But I certainly would see it rather a process of building out your current processes from scratch with a digital transformation aspect in mind. And then where along the processes you can tap into unique large sets of data and feed AI, that's where I would then start addressing each and every challenge where you can add AI to the formula, rather than reinventing everything through AI and then trying to fit it retroactively back into your back-end administration. I would certainly rather collapse all processes, rebuild them, try and identify where you have unique data or big data sets or big learnings to help put your uniqueness into the AI and then bring that back into the process. But again, can your current back office system accommodate it?
Yeah, that was going to be my question to you is, do you think the average insurance system can, or do you think there's a massive need for, or certainly a reasonably big need for collapsing current systems and processes into new technology?
Sure, it's a very difficult question that it's not simple just to take, let's say, a big policy administration system and suddenly start replacing components of it without the system provider obviously being part of that process. Yeah, it's a very big question. I do believe that in certain aspects, for example, rating, these actuarial rating engines for pricing and insurance are certainly designed to receive multiple inputs of varying types into their calculations and ways of pricing risks. So I think there it would be relatively easier. If it's automation in the claims process where you currently have a lot of manual or hard copy documents coming in from multiple sources and you're now trying to digitize those and get them into your back-end system, again, you're not really interfering with the back-end system. You're rather going to gather using AI, using robotics and a number of digital transformation tools to get that information and efficiencies seamlessly into the back-end system. However, to take the back-end system and now say that out of the 10 processes, you're going to fundamentally rip out process number 8, for example, and replace it with AI, then it's a different discussion. Your system providers have built these systems over many years because of the complexity involved, and making those systems viable because they have a number of clients that are using them to making it economically viable. And now you're asking them to ingest something in process number 8 that not everybody else will agree with or want. So it becomes very tricky when you start accessing the core of some of these core insurance systems and expecting them to change for what you think is a good AI adoption in the process. So it depends where you're going to try and apply your AI. But the example I gave, it's much easier to just have better data, more data, better decision-making, better rating factors, better process automation, and digitization of certain inputs into the system by all means. But as soon as you pick the core, it's a very different discussion.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like companies will probably need to do a bit of a system and a process audit and match that with, in a strategic discussion with what technologies are available, what new ways of doing things are available, to see which of those could fit in your business. I can't see it being just a vendor arriving and saying, oh, I've got this or I've got that. It needs to be ground up, starting with an audit and a strategic plan.
Yes, agreed. It'll certainly depend very much on the working relationship between the provider and ultimately the client using the system. And yeah, very collaborative effort, and something, again, that's going to be very specific to what you're trying to address in the process. A lot of these insurers and insurance organizations would certainly like to keep some of their proprietary, their data that's feeding what ultimately what they've created as inputs into the process. They'd like to keep it to themselves, to keep it as a secret source. Yeah, your service providers, the fundamental backbone of how that system integrates, handles data, and how seamlessly it integrates with external tools and inputs such as AI will be critical. A lot of systems are not API enabled and are only trust themselves. A lot of them are not designed to be exposed to external systems to be part of their process, whether it be a claim, an underwriting, a financial process. So it very much depends on the system and the system provider and their capability to expose their system to work with R or not.
Yeah. So I would assume that you guys at Cardinal would be constantly scanning the environment to see what's available, what people are doing on their systems, what AI is being plugged in, and those sort of things.
Yes, correct, Tony. We've had examples where it's been extremely advantageous to some of our clients. For example, take a pet insurer, and when they process the claim, it's obviously after the fact, and they now need to process an invoice where they need to capture every syringe, swab, plaster, medicine, taking that and recapturing that into a claim system when there can be hundreds of items versus automating that whole process is a fundamental efficiency and accuracy at taking out that human element. There it really works. But then we've obviously seen a lot of initiatives where certainly everyone's convinced that it's going to work. And we sit and we go for months and months crunching data, trying to, for example, work out the right value to write off a vehicle based on historic repair costs versus when it was repaired, not repaired. And all it ended up ultimately doing, the AI, was just repeating what a decision the human would have made. It wasn't fundamentally artificial intelligence. It was really just being more of a policeman on the data and making sure that the right decision is made based on historic data.
Yeah, it's more of an automation.
Correct. And that's the reality, is that a lot of it just ends up being an automation. And the other aspect is it just means learnings from the past, because it's historic data that you're generally getting your AI solution to run on and to work with. Especially if you're wanting unique competitive advantage, you want to sit and work with your data. Whereas if you're going to access AI in general on something, then it's being fed by everybody else, and everybody else has got access to the same results. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably then where it becomes essential to speak to somebody who has how shall I put it, a history in transformation and helping with the strategic side of transformation, so that it's not just plugging in a solution, but it is an actual transformation.
It is. We have different entities approaching us all the time, popping out like out of the woodwork, experts, and and a lot of them are, with no disrespect to them, but they are literally just taking these typical cloud-based, extremely powerful tools, from voice sentiment to visual identification on photographs and they're using these tools in this extremely powerful environment in the cloud, and then putting a front end to them, and ultimately robotics. And that's where we see a lot of this stuff. That's these guys pumping up and tinkering with data, but very much working it out as they go with you. So I haven't seen anyone who's really cracked the digital transformation service as a whole. And that's why I mentioned the reskilling of people and leadership within the insurance business is going to be critical. You can't just think that you can throw this across to an external consulting company, because they just can learn to a large degree because your environment is unique inside your own insurance organization. So it'd be far better to have the leadership and the skills to drive that digital transformation innovation internally. But a lot of the guys that we are seeing are taking hard copy documents. We know how backward some of the insurance processes are.
Yeah.
For example, a claim form, and they're training the visual tool to do robotics and character recognition better than the next person. That's all. When the document changes in its layout and format, suddenly the thing falls over.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys tinkering in this space and a lot of pop-ups that are suddenly experts. I'm not being negative about it. I'm just saying there's a lot of people going after the space, but no one's quite got a comprehensive digital transformation strategy. It's rather spearheaded and aimed at very particular problems or opportunities within an insurance organization and addressing them one by one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's back to the drawing board, starting from block one and making sure that, there's so many facets to it because you're not transforming a system or a platform, you're transforming a business.
It's about digital transformation. It's not about AI. Correct. I believe it's about, are you really wanting to embark on a digital transformation strategy?
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Graham, we can carry on with this conversation for a long time. It's fascinating. Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure, Tony. Thanks for your time. I have to say, I'm not an absolute expert in this space, but digital transformation and prioritizing customer-centric innovation is really where the magic lies for this next year in the technology space.
Absolutely, being guided by experts. Yeah,
and the challenges that come around data privacy and workforce readiness.
Yeah, brilliant. Graham, thanks so much.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks for the time.